It is the 14th day of October, 2021. Thank you for watching the Calvary Briefing. There was a blog at All Nations Church of Ilford, England that caught my attention this week, and the title of the blog was Think Little. Think Little. And it came and was inspired by an article written way back in 1970 by Wendell Berry, who was encouraging people who were looking at trying to make a difference in the world. He was trying to encourage them to take little steps rather than big steps all the time, because we tend to think big and we don't think little. And so All Nations Church of Ilford, England is encouraging all of us to think little, not big, and encouraging Christians to adapt a little bit of this mindset. Well, what's that all about? It doesn't sound too encouraging, because we think of big when we think of God. You think of all that Isaiah says in Isaiah chapter 40:15. The nations are like a drop in the bucket. The Great Commission that Jesus gave us in Matthew 28. Go into the world, make nations of all disciples, or make disciples of all nations. The consequences are big. People will either choose to follow Jesus and go to heaven for all eternity, or spend a godless eternity in hell. But it's the fact that many people think big that sometimes gets us into a little bit of difficulty. It gets really hard to make big statements and not promote one's self. We know that we live in a world that's always looking for the next big thing. And often, even in the church, we are looking for the next big thing, the next big trend. And so, how does the thinking little strategy really kick in and make a difference in our lives? Thinking little is not an attempt to shrink our dreams and to make things less important than they are. It is not an attempt to withdraw. It's a strategy to make a difference in small ways at first that lead to big ways. As you think little, think about Jesus. He spent 30 years in obscurity, obeying his parents, working with his dad in probably a carpenter shop of some sort, and only 3 years in a big public ministry. He spent this 3-year ministry primarily dealing with 12 disciples, really pouring his life into 3 of them. And so Jesus confined himself to a small area in order to change the world. And Jesus emphasizes little things over and over. He will reward a cup of cold water given in his name, Matthew 10:42. He records every careless word, Matthew 12:36. He makes a big deal of how to treat the little ones, Matthew 18:6 and 10. Jesus gives eternal rewards to those who are faithful over a little, Matthew 25:21. He says, it's inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of my brothers that you did it to me, Matthew 25:40. For Jesus, it's the little things that really count. As P.J. O'Rourke said, everyone wants to save the earth. Nobody wants to help mom do the dishes. Now, there's a kind of little thinking that we need to avoid. The Pharisees made tithes of their garden herbs while neglecting the bigger issues, and we don't want to go that way. But we want to emphasize the little things that Jesus encouraged us to emphasize. Jesus is clear that when we do the little things, it's very indicative of what's inside. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. says Jesus in Luke 16:10. To think little is not a cop-out. It's not an excuse for us to lack ambition for Jesus. Rather, it's a strategy by which we will keep on the cutting edge of Christ's kingdom. We'll keep in contact with our church and our nation. Do a little thing each day. Take a proverb, for instance. I was reading in Proverbs 19 this morning. Take one proverb each day, like a morning vitamin. This morning, my morning proverb vitamin was from Proverbs 19:11. Good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is glory to overlook an offense. So today, I took one little thing. I've been going through my life looking for some offense that has been committed against me, waiting for that opportunity to overlook it. It's just one little thing, but it makes a difference. Do a little thing each day, each week, each year, and the truth is that you will end up making a big difference.